See, I posted the wins and I stayed quiet about the losses. I talked about freedom and I skipped the 11 p.m. panic attack. I was part of spreading the lie. And I think it's time as entrepreneurs that we talk about what entrepreneurship actually looks like. Because right now, someone listening to this is in the hard part, thinking that something is wrong with them, thinking that they don't belong, that they should throw in the towel. And I need to say it, nothing is wrong with you. You just got sold the after state lie without the before state that you need to be aware of. And today we fix that. And so I'm going to dive into this entire thing in this episode with you. And if this show has ever told you the truth, made a difference in your life, could you please leave a review? Because it helps me, because I read everyone, and it helps other entrepreneurs find the show. And so without further ado, let's get into the episode. Okay, I'm going to say something today that might make some of you uncomfortable. And I'm going to say it with love because that is the only way that I know how to say hard things. Entrepreneurship has been lied about, misrepresented. And a lot of us, myself included, at different points or different seasons, have been the ones spreading the lie. And we didn't do it on purpose, but we did it. We posted about the wins, but we stayed quiet about the losses. We talked about the freedom and we skipped the 11 p.m. panic attack cash flow moment. We shared the launch, but never mentioned the 6 months before it where we questioned everything. We wanted to quit and we almost threw in the towel. And somewhere in all of that, we accidentally built this culture where entrepreneurship looks like a highlight reel. And anyone living through the actual process feels like they're doing it wrong, is gaslit, isolates, and it frustrates the crap out of me because you are not doing it wrong. But I think we need to talk about what's actually going on because I love this community. I love entrepreneurs. I love people that make a difference, and I care about it way too much to let everybody keep building on a foundation that literally is designed to collapse because it's all bullcrap. Because culture, this entrepreneurship culture, has sold us lies. Because if we're honest about what entrepreneurship looks like on the internet, 10 years ago, it was the laptop on the beach, right? Or 5 years ago, it was the passive income screenshot. It was the I quit my 9-to-5 post that had 50,000 likes. It was the guru who's been an entrepreneur for 18 months telling you how to build a 7-figure business. Now it's the cars and the jets and what you'll have, or it's the coaches yelling at you, convincing you that you're weak and you have to grind more and hustle more. And it's like, ugh. And I'm trying really hard not to throw rocks. And I've been on that side of the content. I've posted the win without the context. I've made those promises. I can go all the way back to 2012, 14 years ago when I made my first, 2014. Yeah, 2014. 12 years ago where I made my first $1 million and I was like, I can help anybody. And then the next 10 failed. I had no right saying I could help anybody. But what we have to be really aware of with the problem is that when we get people or we ourselves only ever see the after state, meaning we post the wins or we consume the wins without the context, we start to believe that the actual process or what we call the before state shouldn't be as hard or challenging as it is. And so then what happens is when it gets hard, and it always gets hard, we don't have the thought of like, this is a part of the process. What do we think? We think something is wrong with me. I'm not cut out to do this. Why does it make it look so easy to them? Or even worse, God, if I just actually started doing it like a crappy entrepreneur, if I treated people worse, if I lied to them, I'd be better. And I see all of this happen. And I think that's where we've failed each other. Because if we really look at stats, like you dive in and you can Google all of these yourself. I've mentioned this on quite a few podcasts recently that over 2/3 of businesses fail within a decade. Most of them cite misalignment. All of them struggled. 82% of them also cited cash flow problems. Not that their product was bad, not that their founder was lazy, not even that somebody didn't want their offer, but cash flow, managing it, growing it, scaling it. And nearly half of all entrepreneurs that were in that report struggled with high stress. Almost 40% of them said they had mental health challenges that disrupted their work week. They didn't sleep. They had nightmares. They couldn't be present with their family. They couldn't be present with their kids. But how often do we see that getting posted? How often do we see that being talked about? Not celebrated, but talked about. How often do we see the accurate picture, what the before state is? Because it might not be getting talked about, but it should be. And it's not to scare people. It's not to push people away. It's actually to prepare them and also to connect us on what's real. It's to allow us to be in community with each other, to understand this game so that all of us can keep playing it and make a difference. Because we do not have a failure problem in entrepreneurship. We have an expectations problem. Because people are like, oh, it's supposed to work. My first offer, my first product, my first funnel. Well, the marketing was working or the reels were working. And that is all a lie. And what it's called and like what we've referenced it as is the after state trap. This is what I call it. I call it the after state trap. And I want to talk about it because I've fallen into it personally. And I still sometimes find myself slipping into it. Not only that, but I have the incredible honor and gift of coaching so many people, successful people. And a lot of the people I coach are more successful than I've ever been, which I love, and they know that. And I'm humbled by that. And even them, they're brilliant. And watching those brilliant people, they fall into the after state trap too. And so the after state is the version of success that we see on the outside. Right? It's the revenue, it's the team, it's the brand recognition, it's the big podcast, it's the giant speaking gigs. It's all of those things. It's the label. And all of those things are real. They exist. They're completely worth aiming for or building for. But the mistake people make is they make those things, what we call the after state, they make them their why. They make them that reason for existence. They make them the thing that they use for fuel. And when it's the thing that's pulling you forward, instead of it just becoming a result of what you're actually building, the whole thing cracks, whether you can see it or not. So simply put, if you are driven and you only exist in business for that after state, everything is going to come crumbling down, because that after state should be something that is achieved as a byproduct of your passion and your why you do what you do to help people and serve people. Because that after state, it requires a before state. But nobody talks about the before state. Everyone has shame to talk about the before state. Everyone is petrified for anybody to know they had a bad month, or their product flopped, or they got screwed over by a manufacturer, or their dream clients left, or maybe they even made a mistake and they get to grow and learn from it. But nobody acknowledges that. Because what is the before state? The before state is the client that ghosts you after you've worked with them for 6 months and never pay you. It's the launch that goes quiet. It's the business partnership that you sold to the world, you posted about, you did podcasts together, you co-branded, and then it completely falls apart. It's you alone, 11 p.m., 12 p.m., 1 a.m., running numbers that don't add up, wondering if you made a mistake. It's you questioning if bankruptcy is the right choice, or should I even keep doing this anymore? That's the before state. And we exist in those. They're real every day. And if the only fuel that we have, the only energy we have is the dream of what it looks like on the other side, No matter what happens, we will never make it because we will run out of gas every single time. And I had an incredible guest on the podcast recently, and the episode should be coming out with Letha. And she built a nonprofit from scratch in Uganda. Now, she's from California. This was pre-internet. This was like 2003, 2004. Built a nonprofit from scratch in Uganda with her own savings, no playbook, had never been done before that she'd seen, no infrastructure, no social media promote it. And she actually donated her salary back to it and lived off the things that she could do. And what happened was she walked into a pediatric cancer ward in Uganda and met a 3-year-old boy sitting alone. And that became her why. It wasn't the recognition. It wasn't the TEDx talk that she ended up doing. It wasn't being featured in the Clinton Global Initiative. It wasn't the success that followed. It was that young boy in the yellow t-shirt. And that's what carried her through. And that's the difference for us as entrepreneurs between a why that actually holds and sticks and a why that doesn't. Because you cannot build something real from a fake reason. You cannot build something of substance with something that doesn't exist. You cannot build a home with wood drawn on a piece of paper. You need the actual wood. And so I think at the end of the day, I've just been frustrated because I see this and I coach so many people and I have so many calls every week where people like, I have PTSD. I've been screwed over. This coach sold me the dream. They told me it would work. And really underneath all of it is none of them had the integrity to be honest. And they sold lies. And it cost people and it cost them dearly. And it drives me nuts. And I think it boils down to us all having respect for what entrepreneurship is, but then having the courage and the integrity to speak about it. So how do we do that? Make it really simple. This is just my opinion on how I do it and how I think you should do it. But I'm not here to tell you like not to dream. I love your dreaming. You might have the dream of a private jet. You might have a home, a farm. I don't know what your dream is, and I love your dream because dreams are essential. Your vision is everything. But I want to invite you to something deeper than the dream. I want to invite you into respecting and loving the process. Because I think that's where the game is won. Because your dream, you can have it on a wall, you can stare at it all you want, but it's not going to build itself. It's not going to manifest itself. It's not going to put in the work in those late night hours. It's not going to be there to overcome the challenge. So in order to get to that dream, you have to respect the process. And I think that boils down to 3 things. You have to find the why that can carry the weight. You have to do the work that you've been avoiding. And you have to stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. And so I'm going to go through each one of these to land this episode. Find the why that can carry weight. Not the one that sounds good in a caption, not the one that feels good in a hoodie, the one that will get you through the worst day where everything is stacked against you, the kind of day where everything goes sideways at once, but you still have to show up. If your why is the lifestyle or the results, it will not survive reality. But if your why is rooted in service, in something that matters beyond your bank account, something you'd still do even if nobody paid you, that why can handle the weight and it can handle the load. That's what keeps your entire building standing when the wind blows. And I want you to do something right now. Not when the episode's over, like right now in this moment. Ask yourself this question. If somebody handed you $20 million tomorrow and you never had to work again, would you still do what you're doing? If the answer is yes, even a little bit yes, you're in the right place and your why is right. If the answer is a hard no, that's not a crisis. It's just information. And that information will give you the clarity to find that why. Number two is you have to do the work that you've been avoiding. We've heard Mike Tyson say more than anybody, at least I have, and I don't know where he got it. But the quote that I always come back to is that the secret we're looking for is in the cave that you won't enter. As Mike Tyson says, the magic you're looking for is in the work that you won't do. And in every business that I've built or consulted on, that cave is always the same thing. There is a conversation I've been putting off. There's an offer that's not working. There's a team dynamic that nobody wants to address. The numbers that I haven't looked at in 3 months because I'm scared of what they'll say. The accounts that if I don't log into them, I convince myself they're not there. Respecting entrepreneurship means going into that cave. It means sitting with what's uncomfortable long enough to actually understand it. We can't bypass it. We can't gaslight ourselves past it. We can't rebrand it. And we can't post our way past it. We actually have to look at it. We have to examine it, get comfortable with it, and make decisions with it from honesty instead of avoidance. And as hard as this is to say, because this is what I still struggle with, every answer that we are looking for is in that cave. And I think the invitation is to stop trying to go in it alone and go in it in community, go in it with a coach, go in it with a mentor, go in it with somebody you love and respect, because that's what makes it different. And then number three is stop comparing your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 10. And this is probably the most important thing I will say to you today, because I know how this feels and I do this and I've done this and it sucks because we're in the grind of building something real. And you look sideways at somebody else's highlight reel and everything we've built feels small. Like it's not worthy. Why aren't we there? And that comparison is not fair to you. It is never fair. Because you have access to your entire situation, your entire reality, and you have zero access to any of theirs. You don't know what's happening under the hood or behind the scenes. That person posting the revenue screenshot might have cash flow problems they're not posting about. That car that you see might have been borrowed from a friend. I actually remember when I lived in Temecula, I have a dear friend who I love, who owned an Audi R8. And 2 to 3 times a week, entrepreneurs around us would come to ask him if they could use his car for content. They weren't theirs. They couldn't afford it. They pulled up in a Honda Civic. That person with the massive audience has nights of real doubt that they're not sharing. You think that audience is massive, yet no one is DMing them and asking about their offer. I know and have been behind the scenes of people with 5, 6 million followers that are doing less than 10 grand a month. And I've coached people with 9,000 followers that are doing 100 plus grand a month. And so we are all somewhere in our own story. And the only comparison that actually serves you is the one between you and you. Who you were yesterday, who you were a week ago, who you were a month ago, compared to who you want to be and who you're becoming. So you cannot measure your chapter 1 or your chapter 5 or your chapter 10 against anybody's other chapter. And I don't think that you should. And I had to pull some statistics for this podcast because I think it's important to hear. Before you build anything, before you launch an offer, before you leave that 9 to 5, know these things and then choose these things. 5.2 million new business applications, 5.2 million new business, I'm looking at this in front of me, new business applications were filed in the US in 2024. That is a record. People are jumping in at a historic rate, and yet over 2/3 of those businesses won't make it a decade. And then when people want to know why, and when they ask and the researchers ask, it's not bad timing, it's not the economy, it's the misalignment, which leads to the cash flow problems, which leads to the stress, because it's building something that they were never truly connected to. They were building for the after state. They weren't building to who they were or what they valued or what the market actually needed. More than 60% of businesses that fail are actually profitable when they close. Think about that. More than 60% of businesses that fail are actually profitable when they close. They had customers, they had revenue, they ran out of cash. Not because they were bad at business, but because nobody taught them that part. Nobody told them about that. Nobody saw that in the before state. Nobody said that to become an entrepreneur, you need to be financially literate. It's a planning problem. Everyone was posting about freedom and nobody mentioned the spreadsheet problem. And nearly half the people who see a good business opportunity, 49%, say that a fear of failure would still stop them from starting. And I actually think that fear deserves some respect. Because when fear asks good questions before you build something, it's wisdom. The enemy is the fear that shows up after we've already committed to something. And I say all of this because every single skill needed as an entrepreneur, every single situation as an entrepreneur is survivable. Everything is learnable. But you can't learn or you can't survive what you don't acknowledge. And the only version of entrepreneurship that I see being fed to most people is the curated version. And if that happens, you walk onto a battlefield with toy armor and you get destroyed. And so my invitation is simple. This is where I want to end this because this is my rant and my stat. Not with a warning, not with anything I'm upset about, with an invitation. When you do entrepreneurship from the right place, it's one of the most meaningful things a human being can do. It is the ultimate act of service. It is service at scale. It is solving real problems for real people and building something that exists because you existed. It is you. It is your gift to the world. And I believe that with everything in me. But it also asks something of us. It asks us to have clarity on our why. It asks us for the willingness to do the ugly work, the unglamorous work. It asks us for community, real community, not followers, like people who will be honest with you when you need it and cheer for you when you earn it. And it asks for the kind of respect for the process that only comes when you stop performing. Entrepreneurship is not something that we perform at. It's something we actually have to do every day. And the revenue and the results and the freedom that we're after, they don't come first. They come after the equal sign. And before that equal sign is service, integrity, connection, and the willingness to stay when it's hard, to stay persistent, to stay consistent, and to see it through. Entrepreneurship does not owe us freedom because we showed up. Entrepreneurship does not owe us followers because we showed up. Entrepreneurship doesn't owe us freedom because we posted or had an offer or think that we can help. It gives us the freedom or it gives us the results before we earned it. So my ask for you today is to look at you, not your metrics, not your content calendar, but yourself. Can you actually feel your why? Not just say it. Like, does it resonate in your soul? Are you building something that you would still build if nobody was watching? And is there a cave that you've been walking past that you already know you need to enter? Because I'm seeing so many things in the market right now. And the businesses that are pulling ahead are not the ones with the biggest platforms. They are the ones built on something true, authentic, connection, service. The world is hungry for real. And the entrepreneurs who are going to matter in the next decade are the ones who stopped romanticizing this thing and started respecting it. AI has commoditized everything. The only thing it can't commoditize is real connection and real relationships. And so start respect this because I love you. I believe in you. I am proud of you for being here. I am proud of me for still being here 18, 19 years later. And I am rooting for all of us entrepreneurs who believe in people, who believe in helping people, that we can build something that lasts and we are in control of the conversation. Because the world does not need any more entrepreneurs who look the part. It needs more entrepreneurs who are willing to do the work. And so I love you. I appreciate you. I will see you in the next episode, or maybe you'll hear me in your earballs, but I had to get that off my chest. Mwah.